think we're missing Eric Neville, correct?
No,
Eric
we
is
just
here.
lost his video. He's so not sure what
Oh,
happened.
there he is.
There he is.
Right, there you are. There you are. We're missing somebody. Oh, we're missing Allison.
So I think everybody else is here. So we have one person who will not be here. That's Kirk Peterson, and Allie has not shown up yet. But I think everybody else is here. And I think it's 7 o'clock. Here it is. Hi, welcome. Okay, Leonore, do you want to take over?
I will. So I'd like to welcome our candidates and our audience to the 2022 Rockridge Community Planning Council Board of Directors Candidate Forum. Thank you for being with us tonight. A little bit about RCPC. RCPC was founded in 1985 to preserve and enhance the unique character of the Rockridge neighborhood of Oakland, to promote the health, safety, and quality of life of its residents, to furnish a forum for community involvement, and to provide leadership and representation of community interests. So today's candidate forum is the opportunity for Rockridge to meet the candidates who are running to serve on the RCPC Board of Directors, who provide the leadership and representation of community interests. The board is a 13-member board, and we have 9 candidates running to fill 6 spots. I'd like to introduce our moderator, Kathleen Shaw, very briefly. Kathleen is a strategic communications professional, and she's a leadership trainer. She retired from the Association of Bay Area Governments as Senior Communications Officer and Legislative Analyst, specializing in land use, housing, transportation, and environment. Currently, she's the League of Women Voters Bay Area Director and board member of the League of Women Voters Oakland. And she served as serving as an appointee on the Bay Area Regional Planning Committee and board VP for A Safe Place. So thank you so much, Kathleen.
All right, we shall begin then. The 9 candidates, let me announce them, for the Rockridge Community Planning Board, RCPC, that you will meet today as we have you, and I'm going to list them in alphabetical order. Is it Allison or Ali Bond? Is it Bondi?
Ali Bondi.
Ali Bondi. Ali Bondi is in Lawton Avenue. Casey Farmer is Carlton Street. She's an incumbent. Annette Fleischer, she's out of Birch Court, and she is an incumbent. Ben Friedman, Colby Street. Robin McDonald is Auburn Avenue and an incumbent. Diana Mitchell Chavez, she is Shafter Avenue. Brett Moyer, 51st Street. Eric Neville, Thomas Avenue. And we will have Kirk Peterson. He will not be participating because he is in Spain and cannot get Wi-Fi, but he has sent a short video which we will run after the candidates here have given their opening statements. Let me give you the guidelines very quickly. The ground rules, where we've got set some pretty time-sensitive and careful ground rules. The idea is to maximize all of you, the candidates, and give your participation and give the audience opportunity to hear and learn more about you. We will begin with candidate open remarks. Each candidate has 2 minutes for these opening remarks. I will do it in alphabetical order. That order will remain the same, but who starts each round will vary to maximize fairness. Time is a luxury, of course. So we have a timekeeper. She will be signaling the candidates with a 10-second sign, and then she will put up a red stop sign, and this will give everyone, you know what you have to do. We will let the candidates finish their sentence, and then we will then go immediately to the next speaker, who I will announce. After the opening remarks are concluded, we have a second round of 2 questions, seated questions, and each candidate will be able to answer these questions, and for each one, it's 1 minute. And that's what we're doing, and that's a test. The next phase after that is a lightning round, and we're going to address audience questions that'll be submitted through the Q&A, and may I say to the audience, you can submit questions at any time, putting them there. In this lightning round, the questions from attendees will be monitored by the organization and submitted to me to make sure that we get them. The questions are going to be screened according, of course, to avoid duplication and to make sure that there are no personal attacks, etc. They will delete any questions that they judge inflammatory, racist, or sexist. This meeting will be recorded and broadcast on YouTube Live and posted on RCPC's YouTube channel after the event. Those are my quick kind of ground rules to give you an idea of what you can expect. Now let's begin with the opening statements by our candidates, who will again speak for 2 minutes. The first speaker to begin will be Bondi.
Hi, my name is Bondi. I live on College and Lawton, and I am a dog mom to a yellow lab puppy that you might see in the background. I am thrilled to be here on this forum and thrilled to be in Rockridge. I grew up in the East Bay and honestly have wanted to live in Rockridge since I was 5 years old. And last year I was finally able to afford an apartment here. I've lived and worked in Oakland government for 10 years. My professional career has been devoted to studying and solving Oakland's toughest public policy challenges, from housing and land use to small business development. And now I work in equity and economic mobility for the city, county, and school district. I'm running to support an inclusive, family-friendly, and vibrant community with diverse neighbors, successful small businesses, and activated streets and parks that are walkable, welcoming, and safe. I'm a graduate of Berkeley's Goldman School of Public Policy and a member of Oakland's Head Start Advisory Board. I'm a longtime community advocate and volunteer who dedicates the time it takes to get results. I feel truly privileged to live here, and I want to make sure that others have that opportunity regardless of income, race, or status. Rockridge is poised to become the model in the nation of how a community can evolve from exclusionary by law to exclusionary by price to truly inclusionary and thriving in this next generation. I think RCPC is the community forum where dedicated volunteers can bring us all together to figure out how we get to that thriving Rockridge. Thank you.
All right. Next speaker is Casey Farmer.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Casey, and I've had the pleasure of serving on this board since 2018. I was appointed originally, then elected in 2020, and now up for re-election. Professionally, I have worked for over a decade in the Oakland Unified School District, for the City of Oakland, for the County of Alameda, and also the State of California, representing this region of the East Bay. And in that time, I've worked both in public policy, also constituent services and community engagement, looking at some of the same issues we face in our own neighborhoods, such as housing, parks, safety, etc. Personally, I have lived in Rockridge for over 12 years, and I am raising my 2 children here, and have lived in many nooks of the neighborhood in my tenure here, and truly love the vibrancy, the community and connections. People really love living here, and are dedicated to serving as neighborhood leaders, hosting community events, as I do for Carlton Street. And I consider myself an advocate both in my professional and personal hats. I think I'm someone committed to getting things done. I am a problem solver. As an RCPC board member, I led our ad hoc redistricting committee to ensure that we were kept whole in all of the districts and advocate for our needs. I led the fundraiser for Clifton Hall to welcome the new residents at the former CCA dorms. And I'll share more about my other experience later. Thank you.
All right, next speaker is Annette Fleischer. You're on mute.
Sorry. Hi, my name is Annette. I live on Birchport, the small dead-end street that is directly across from Trader Joe's and ends in St. Albert's. I have rented in this house for 7 years before having the good fortune to be able to buy it, and have been a longtime resident of Rockridge and am currently an incumbent on the RCPC board. Having served previously on the board, I have mostly participated in fundraising and organizational efforts to see that RCPC continues to serve the entire community. My focus personally is history, because I think that history informs the present. I've written to that effect many articles for the Rockridge News on the history and of Rockridge, both old and new, and RCPC as well, and look to see that we continue to evolve. Our history has been both good and bad, as is the case with most places. Oakland has been, of course, housing exclusionary with exclusionary clauses, just as Rockridge had in some areas. And Rockridge, in the time I've lived here, has evolved significantly from a place that was much more diverse than it is now. My focus is emergency preparedness and environmental advocacy, as well as affordable housing. I've written a great deal about that, and it concerns me that we have excluded about 40% at least of the Oakland population from any potential of ever living here or virtually anywhere else in the city. And while we cannot remedy the income inequality that's the root of that, we can, however, focus on building affordable housing, genuinely affordable housing for the people who need it. I'm a native of Denmark. I have seen extremely fine housing built by communities, municipalities, and counties. I hope that we can cooperate.
All right, our next speaker is Ben Friedman.
Hey everyone, my name is Ben and I'm honored to be here. I'd like to start by just saying how grateful I am to be a part of Rockridge and to have been a part of Rockridge for these last 5 years. And I think it's important to acknowledge the privilege it is to live here. Rockridge is a beautiful, thriving neighborhood in the second most diverse county in the lower 48, in the heart of one of the most vibrant metropolitan areas in the country. And we have redwoods and BART station, bakeries, and bike lanes and buses. And these are things to celebrate. You know, we live in a community that values democracy, science, and inclusion, and participation. I think the very existence of the RCPC is a testament to the care that our neighbors have for Rockridge. And more than anything, I'd like to help the RCPC foster that sense of community so that all residents of Rockridge feel the responsibility I feel to help steward the neighborhood. I think we're really more powerful together. I work in environmental philanthropy and advocacy, and I'll use my land use and government affairs experience to effectively share our community's needs with our local, state, and federal decision makers. The RCPC not only has the power to meet with, but really influence our elected officials. Folks like Councilman Kalb, Assemblywoman Wicks, who just lives up the street on Hillegas, Mayor Libby Schaff, Representative Barbara Lee, and others. You know, our policy priorities should be our decision makers' goals. I believe that the issues that are most pressing within our community are obviously really our housing crisis, as well as undeveloped lots within our community and poor air quality exacerbated by climate change. I believe that Rockridge can be a model for addressing these pressing issues in the Bay Area and California writ large, with a huge help from the RCPC, and I want to help. Thank you.
All right. Our next speaker is Robin McDonald.
Good evening, I'm Robin McDonald. The RCPC is a tremendous vehicle for our Rockridge community. I've enjoyed my tenure as a board member, and I'm prepared to use my experience to continue to push for a thriving Rockridge community. I believe our priority should be to support the College Avenue Commercial Corridor, advocate for public safety, support compatible, affordable housing, increase our outreach with the community, and support for policies that seek to improve our environment. There should be broad agreement that College Avenue brings great vibrancy to our community. We need to be prepared to support neighborhood businesses as they recover from the stages of the pandemic. Steps we can take include promoting reopening events in the Rockridge News and partnering with the Rockridge District Association. Although public safety is the primary focus of the Neighborhood Crime Prevention Council, we can continue to support and strengthen the ties between RCPC, NCPC, and the city. Increasing affordable housing is a concern I share with many. Using Rockridge News, we conducted a survey to assess the neighborhood's preferences for the vacant property next to the shops at the Ridge on Broadway. 270 of our neighbors responded. We found that the highest priority for our respondents was housing. We need to continue our engagement with the developers of that property to advocate for housing and do our part to help increase housing options for all segments of our society. Additionally, RCPC funds a small competitive grant program. We should be opening that program up for grants in the next year. These grants can be used for a wide range of projects that enhance day-to-day life by increasing community engagement with projects such as community gardens, literacy programs, and public artwork, to name a few. Finally, RCPC needs to advocate for policies that improve climate resilience. We can support more cleanup days and projects that incorporate green technology and encourage alternate modes of transportation. If I win re-election to the RCPC board, I will continue to work to make our neighborhood more inclusive, friendly for families and businesses alike.
Okay. Our next speaker is Diana Mitchell-Chavez.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to participate in this. I've been a resident of Rockridge for 43 years. I'm originally from Connecticut, but what brought me out here, I was marketing director for the San Francisco and Los Angeles offices of Cosmopolitan magazine. I did a 20-year stint with HGB, Helen Gurley Brown. And then when I left her, I was a PA for a senior partner of Skidmore, Owings and Merrill, which, if you don't know, they are the world's second largest architectural firm. Living here in Rockridge has been a joy. And I think the one thing that has made it a joy is getting to know my neighbors, knowing how they enjoy Rockridge, how they live here. And it's just one of those things where we work together as a unit. We wanted to have permit parking. We all got together, signed the petitions, and got permit parking. We wanted to have safe streets. So we actually, people who could drive, actually offered their services to people who were coming home late from work, from BART. Call us. One of us will come up, pick you up, take you home, drop you right off the door, and then we'll go home. And that's worked very well too. But, everything from safe streets to, making sure that we had a library, and we bought, we taxed ourselves for that library. But anyhow, Rockridge is a beautiful place to live. People here are wonderful, and I just want to serve them.
Okay. Our next speaker, Brett Moyer.
Thank you, Kathleen, and thanks everybody for joining. And for those who work on Zoom all day, for spending another hour staring at screens after we did it all day. So my wife and I have lived in the neighborhood for about 5 years or so, the first 4 of which we rented over by Trader Joe's, and we're lucky enough to move into a home about a year ago. At that time, we welcomed my son into the world, which has been awesome. Although I'm glad he's asleep, giving us a break for a little while. He's named Miles after Miles Avenue that we lived on. And really, that's one of the main reasons that I'm excited to be here and to be, up as a candidate for the RCPC. It's really, I absolutely adore the neighborhood. My wife loves the neighborhood. And we really are excited for our son to grow up here. I work for a bank nowadays doing budgeting and financial analysis for that bank. And I'd like to bring some of that and see what experience I can bring to the RCPC to really continue to help the neighborhood and help the businesses in the neighborhood, like a lot of folks have, touched on. Things like the Rock and Stroll, the Halloween parade and Halloween events, the out and about. Those are just some of the best days in the community, in my mind, in the neighborhood. And, how can we continue to do even more of that, continue to bring people out to help our local businesses, like a couple of people have touched on, those businesses that are still, struggling, coming out of a tough couple of years. And so how can we, and myself, continue to improve the neighborhood and help those businesses thrive? Thank you very much.
All right. Our next speaker, Eric Neville.
I'm Eric Neville. I previously served on the board approximately 20 years ago, and I'm currently serving as treasurer on the Greater Rockridge Neighborhood Crime Prevention Council. I was trying to think about what's important, because in 2 minutes it's kind of hard to go very far anywhere. But I was thinking that the most important thing is how we do things, because they set up patterns not only for how we will do things the next time, but also for if we're making decisions. It's important to bear in mind that it takes a while for good information to develop. I was just hearing somebody compare World War II history with Ukraine and pointing out that there's been a lot of time to collect information from World War II and put it together in charts and graphs. It makes it easier to understand. And while in some ways maybe this sounds sort of perfunctory, trying to be wise, trying to be patient, trying to be thoughtful, I also think that time shows that it's a real challenge. We wouldn't put King Solomon on a pedestal if being wise were easy. It wouldn't be notable if there was only one person who voted against the authorized use of military force back in 2001. If it were easy to be thoughtful, to be patient, to be brave when required, and as well, this is something where it has an impact on other people, because if we're able to listen to other people in the process of decision making so that they know that their contribution registers in the decision making process, that gives them more emotional bandwidth to go out and engage other people and in a productive fashion, and then that person in turn that goes around, and there's a virtuous circle in that. So I'll settle there.
Okay. Our last speaker will be Kirk Peterson, and because he is not able to be here since he is in Spain right now without Wi-Fi contact, he was able to send us a short video, 2 minutes, 18 seconds video as his candidate statement. So I will leave it to one of our people to run it so we can hear it.
Good evening. I'm Kirk Peterson. I am a member of the RCPC board elected 2 years ago, and I am here to ask.
Can everybody hear what he's saying? Yeah, okay.
That you return me to the board or continue me on the board in the upcoming election. This is a pre-recorded message. I am in Catalonia now, at the home of friends, and I'm not sure that my attendance at Zoom will work technologically. So here I am. I have been, the last 2 years with COVID has been weird. The time I've been on the board, RCPC has not been able to interact personally as much as we would like to have with the community to do activities and try and figure out what the community thinks and what it wants and what it is interested in. I have been contributing little articles, some articles to the RCPC, the Rockridge News. Lately I've been doing little bits about our local native trees. And so I was born in Oakland. I've worked in Rockridge for 30 odd years. We have been living in our building on College Avenue for 10 years and are building a house with an ADU and a junior ADU in our backyard. So I think that perhaps qualifies me as a pro-housing. I think I've designed a lot of housing. I'm an architect. I've designed hundreds of units in Oakland, in Berkeley. I have worked with planners in Oakland a lot for years. I've been interested in planning matters and was served on the Landmarks Board. I think that things that I continue to be interested in that will involve RCPC and the Land Use Committee, which I've been on for a few years before I joined the board. In particular, in the near future, is the development of CCA for housing and the development of the Ridge lot at 51st and Broadway, hopefully with housing. So I guess I seem to be out of time. Hopefully I will make the Zoom meeting. If not, hopefully I will be reelected and can continue working with the board. I will be working on the house tour and I'm over time. So thank you and good evening.
Okay, now we're going to go to what we call our first round of seated questions. These are questions that we've already prepared. Each candidate will have no more than 1 minute to answer. Gives you an opportunity maybe to even be a little more specific. The first question, what do you consider the most important issue facing the Rockridge community, and how would you propose that RCPC respond to the issue? Another way of looking at that is, what is the number one thing you want to do on the board? And the first speaker will be Diana Mitchell-Chavez. You get to start.
Well, the most important thing, I think, is safety. Safety on the streets, day or night, safety in your home, and safety of your personal possessions, your vehicle, whatever. I think the best way to make sure that you, or to help be safe, is to get to know your neighbors, get to know everyone who lives around you. Let them in to your life and share information. If someone knows something has happened on the next block over, let everyone know. Let them know the details, and then you can work out a plan on how to combat that happening here to you or to someone else who lives next door to you.
Okay. The next speaker will be Brett Moyer.
Thank you. I think just to elaborate a little bit on my opening comments, I think the local businesses really form the backbone of the neighborhood. What my wife and son and I did yesterday is we walked up to the bookstore at Pegasus, and then went over to Pharmaca, down to Frog Park, and stopped over for a quick snack over at the new Whole Foods. That's just a great Sunday afternoon to spend as a family. That's so much of what we love about the neighborhood and gets us out meeting people and neighbors and members of the community. So how can we continue to create environment that brings everybody out of their home, bring them together, and help those businesses on College Avenue in particular.
Okay, and next speaker, Eric Neville.
Sorry. I would say the biggest issue is participation, because there are thousands of people in the RCPC boundaries, and I'd say the brightest, richest future we're going to see is when as many people as possible are involved in a plethora of ways. And I think that actually the RCPC can function significantly as effectively a nerve center connecting people who have shared interests, and also introducing people to how the system works. I know that, when I started out years back, it was actually, I think it was a few years before I even learned about the Public Records Act. And the better that we can inform people what their rights and opportunities are in terms of engaging in government and with society, the better we'll all be.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker, Ali Bundy.
Thank you. I think most of us said it in our opening statements: housing affordability and inclusion. We're in the epicenter of one of the toughest housing markets the country's ever seen. Even folks lucky enough to grow up in Rockridge can't afford to come back and raise their own families here. There's been some creative work done around in-law units and duplexes, but it's not enough if we want to maintain and grow a thriving, vibrant neighborhood. We're sitting on some of the most expensive land in the country, so we need leaders who can leverage every cent, every zoning ordinance, every opportunity to get as much workforce housing, teacher housing, as much deeply affordable housing constructed and preserved here as possible. And the RCPC is the body that can bring those neighbors, would-be neighbors, and relevant partners together to find a way forward that works for everyone. Thank you.
Okay. Next speaker will be Casey Farmer.
Great. I too think that housing is our greatest challenge here in the community. I think it's access and affordability at all levels, or building more at all levels. I think we have a moral and environmental imperative to build more housing. I think ADUs are one opportunity, and we need to help other neighbors who are interested in building ADUs to understand that process. We had one great town hall that we hosted that I helped support a while back, but I think there's still opportunity to guide people through that process. And I want to point to a couple key opportunity sites that I think we need to use our leverage as the Rockridge Community Planning Council with decades of advocacy for particular sites. I think it's 51st, where Home Depot has sadly been proposed, BART down the future as BART stations are considering development elsewhere, and College and Claremont.
Okay. Next speaker, Annette Fleischer.
Looking at the historical perspective, opportunities for housing are one of the most limited things in this neighborhood. And we have missed one great opportunity in the Dryers site, which RCPC at the time advocated for as a large housing and retail site that could have accommodated hundreds of units of housing. And unfortunately, the city of Oakland violated its own zoning to build a world corporate headquarters for a corporation there to allow that. Now we have an opportunity at 51st and Broadway, and it means working with our state, county, and city officials to ensure that the unfunded mandate that we have all been handed in the entire state of California to build housing does not mean market rate housing, but also means an extensive amount of affordable housing. California sits on an enormous sum of surplus money, needs to start spending it on affordable housing. It is an absolute imperative, or we lose our entire working class.
Okay. Ben Friedman, you're next.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. We have to ensure that more people can enjoy Rockridge and its amenities, and we're up against this housing supply crisis, this unaffordability crisis. Frankly, I find it embarrassing that we have these lots on College and Claremont and on 51st and Broadway that sit unused in this time of housing crisis and climate change. Since I moved to Rockridge in 2017, all I've seen happen on College and Claremont is soil get ripped out, redwoods get cut down, and a fence get put up. I mean, these are symbols of our failure to not act boldly to address the housing crisis, not, as opposed to building a Home Depot, which I find horrifying. So I believe that RCPC can and should take a vocal and public leadership role in pressuring these landowners and developers to develop these sites for housing. I mean, I'd like to see RCPC help gather signatures for the community showing support for housing and deliver that to decision makers. Bring that to Buffy Wicks, bring that to Councilman Kalb, and put some pressure. We have a lot of motivated voters and we could utilize them together. Thank you.
Okay. Last but not least, Robin McDonald.
Hi. Well, I'm going to say that I think quality of life is important. A good quality of life encompasses so many of the issues, many things such as thriving businesses, safe and family-friendly streets, diversity, housing for all, and climate resiliency. So we need to be prepared to promote and advocate for all of these things so that Rockridge continues to be a place that we're all proud to call home. If I win re-election to the board, I will continue to work to make our neighborhood more inclusive and friendly for families and businesses alike. Thank you for listening.
Okay, that ends this particular question. The second question, what should RCPC be doing to help Rockridge weather the impact that the pandemic has had on public safety, business, and housing development? I know you've been talking about that, but what can you maybe specifically talk about in this post-COVID kind of climate? What are we doing next? What can you see that we should be promoting next? Especially when it comes to public safety and preparedness, etc. And that speaker will be, actually, Robin, you pop up in my random search.
Yeah, great to go first. I think that there's been controversy over mask mandates in Oakland and asking the businesses to take some responsibility for sort of controlling that. I'm not quite sure where it stands now, but we should be supporting our businesses and not making them police the neighborhood. Other things that we, as I mentioned before, we should be working with the businesses on College Avenue to promote events that bring people down to the avenue and help the businesses have more walk-ins. I'll stop there.
Okay. The next speaker will be Diana Mitchell-Chavez.
Okay, well, first of all, here we all are on Zoom, okay? The pandemic hasn't really ended, but the numbers have gone down. I think if we're going to do anything, we have to maintain a hybrid sort of, living. Yes, in enclosed buildings and all, I still think people should wear masks. Why? Because there are a lot of elderly people still around here. And children, a lot of them have not been vaccinated yet. However, if you're outside, I don't think you should need to have to wear a mask, there's no big deal about that. But I think we should also be cognizant of the fact that businesses, they're there to make money. They're there to make profit. And they shouldn't have to police the public. That's it. I'm sorry. I'll stop.
Kathleen, you're on mute.
I'm still watching you on mute. Brett Moyer, you're on next.
Great, thank you. I think a lot of people have said it, but over the last 2 years, a lot of folks, myself included, spent a lot more on goods and things shipped from Amazon. The Amazon bill has been pretty scary over the last couple of years. And like we've talked about, how do we get folks back out into the community, spending more on services, keeping that money within the neighborhood? And Robin, I think, hit the nail on the head. How do we create those experiences as RCPC to bring the community together? How do we help the restaurants with their parklets and keeping what's been I think a really great addition to the neighborhood? How do we keep making the street pedestrian friendly so people can walk and feel comfortable walking or riding a bike around the neighborhood? Those small things go a long way to helping make all of us comfortable being out and about in the neighborhood.
Okay. Eric Neville, you're next.
I think I unfortunately missed the latter part of the question for a technical issue here, but offhand, it's not obvious to me. It's a challenging thing as far as what RCPC is going to do for the part of the question I heard, in terms of COVID. I mean, I think it's important. We can help to pass along information, but I would try to be reserved in terms of how to interpret what's provided by like the CDC for what people should do. And further, there was some question in there about local businesses. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we would want to be adaptive to what. Have to have more time to consider specifics, I guess, to suggest something more useful.
Ali Bondi, you're next.
Thank you. Yeah, the pandemic robbed our community not just of wealth and jobs and lives, but of each other. We haven't been able to gather. And I think RCPC can help bring us back together, COVID appropriately, as we're all talking about, and activate the streets, which we know activated streets are one of the best public safety tools that we have available and boosts our businesses. And on the safety challenges, they're no doubt exacerbated by the pandemic, but they're rooted in things much deeper and upstream. And I think the more we can plan for a future Rockridge that supports economic equity and opportunity, the more our public safety situation will improve. And I believe that we can do that while addressing current crises. It's a both and situation. Thank you.
Casey Farmer, you're next.
I think one way to support our businesses is first to connect with them. The Rockridge District Association is really the merchant body, but we should stay in contact to see if there are needs that they have that they can share with us that really fall more in our purview, or where we could advocate together. I think we need to honor our traditions that RCPC has done for many years, like the Halloween parade, for a beautiful example of lots of people coming together, supporting the merchants, but also having community building. But how can we think outside the box? How can we promote slow streets, activate the BART parking lot on the weekends for folks to come out, and then they're connected to our lovely corridor of all of those shops. I know that they were thinking about doing some summer concerts, and that's a great idea for folks to come together. What is our role to play in that?
Okay. Annette Fleischer, it's your turn.
Thank you. I think one of the most important things that we can do is help to reestablish community. Community bonding has been largely disrupted by people sheltering in place during these last couple of years, and it really has made life difficult for most people in terms of connecting again. RCPC has a number of unique opportunities to connect people. Not least of all is public safety forums where we can help people get prepared for the next earthquake, the next wildfire, and other safety issues on a large scale that we can prepare for, and that will community build block by block, literally by uniting neighbors in a preparedness effort to save one another, because we will be dependent on one another in these events. I hope that RCPC can serve as a facilitating forum and organization for exactly that kind of reconnection in the community among citizens who live here.
Okay, Ben Friedman, you're the last for this round.
It's great to hear all of the folks, all the different ideas that are popping up. I mean, I'm writing down some ideas. I totally am in agreement. Get folks out. I mean, I think that one of the great things about our community are the things that Brett, did share in his opening remarks about these parades and days strolling College Avenue. I mean, Rockridge is one of the most walkable neighborhoods like in California. And I think that's really worth celebrating and helping orient folks around. I really like the idea of thinking creatively about the BART parking lot. I'm really glad that was invoked. I think Annette said something smart about this $31 billion surplus that the state has. Like, can we shake some of that loose for sort of community enrichment? But there's some other things. Pitching reporters about restaurants and food places, and Rockridge has been really fruitful in the past. I mean, the New York Times wrote about Boychuk Bagel there were too many people in Rockridge. I think also something I've been thinking about is a lawn tour, sort of similar to the kitchen tour, getting folks to like share. I mean, there's some beautiful outdoor spaces in folks' houses that can get us outside.
Okay. I've been looking at their different questions. We're now going what's called the lightning round. Basically, what you're going to do is we have a series of questions that have popped up and that we're waiting for others as well. And we're going to give them, you can give a yes or no, and then maybe one sentence. That's all you need to do. You don't need, you can be as specific as you wish. But the first question, and it kind of reflects what Annette was bringing up, how would you rate Rockridge disaster preparedness for a future earthquake or wildfire? Low, medium, or high, and why? The first one that gets to start this round is Casey Farmer.
Okay, well, I don't claim to be a fire expert, but I do know that if we look at history, we were the center of the Oakland Hills fire, and our community was deeply affected by that. I think we play a role in promoting resilience. One thing that I did was when the city's core program reactivated, I made sure it was in the Rockridge News so that we knew about how to get trained.
Yeah.
Now, as much as that was a good answer, we really want you to be shorter. But we're not going to. Next person would be Annette Fleischer.
I would say the preparation here is perhaps medium. Individuals are prepared. There are some blocks that are organized through the core program already, and whoever works in that direction is what we need to work forward toward. All of us, every block needs to be organized.
Kathleen, I think I'm up, but you're on mute. I'm not sure if it's me or someone else.
Ben Friedman, your response.
You know, I think we could always do more. I would guess it's around medium, but I don't know. But we could always do more. I mean, obviously, yeah, the 91 firestorm is a really scary event, and we live on the Hayward Fault. I actually studied geology in college, and I'd be happy to like lend that side of my brain to thinking about earthquake preparedness for the RC.
Okay, Robin McDonald, what is your opinion?
Well, I guess I'd say medium as well. I do get email. We had a town hall addressing this issue on Zoom. I do get emails from Doug Moyer from the fire department to come back and talk to us. And I think what Rockridge could do is host more of those events throughout the year to keep the neighborhood well informed.
Okay. What about you, Diana Mitchell-Chavez?
Well, I was here for the firestorm. And I can tell you one thing, our neighbors, I'd say we're medium to almost high. We've gotten together.
Okay. Okay. Brett Moyer, low, medium, or high?
I would say medium, and really just echo some of Robin's points and a point that Casey made earlier that really, where the RCPC can help are things like overviews for the community, because inevitably new members that join the neighborhood or new things we can all learn.
Okay. Eric Neville?
I would say modestly. As Annette pointed out, there's certainly some individuals who are, but like I wrote an article about Zone Haven and structural concerns there, and didn't really hear a lot of attention to those issues. So I'd say medium low.
Okay. Bondi, you're last.
As someone with family who lost their home in the firestorm, I would say a nervous medium, but that's in large part because of the good work of the fire department and residents who were here then and experienced the fire. But I think we could all do more to prep as a neighborhood, particularly newer residents, myself included.
Okay. I'm going to use the same lineup again for the next one. Stuart, How would you address concerns about crime, public safety? One idea. And Casey, you get to start again. You're muted right now.
Crime and public safety. Okay, I've got a great idea. I think for National Night Out, Rockridge Planning Council needs to incentivize blocks to host those parties, to pay for some posters that remind them about what RCPC does, and pay for desserts or small things as a contribution to each block party.
Okay, I got a request to repeat the question again. How would you address concerns about crime, public safety? One idea. The next would be Annette. You're next.
I participated in the founding of the very first Neighborhood Watch in Rockridge a long time ago, and Rockridge originated Neighborhood Watch nationally and internationally. I think we need to get every block involved in Neighborhood Watch. Get to know your neighbors. Most blocks have at least an email tree, and it's the start.
Okay. Ben Friedman.
One idea is better lighting on Claremont College, sort of big thoroughfares that can be really dangerous to cross with cars.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Robin McDonald. One idea.
I agree with Casey. I think that we should partner with NCPC and RCPC to do community events such as she described. But I also I like Annette's idea. Yeah, we all have a list, a neighborhood list, but you know, knowing that we're checking on each other in some way, I think would really have it be more structured and organized, that we're checking on each other, because we have a lot of elderly folks in our neighborhoods.
Okay. Diana Mitchell Chavez.
Well, my neighborhood, we've all had a phone tree and now email tree for years. We check on if we need to buy something, sell something, we contact each other, but we stay in contact with each other.
Okay. Brett Moyer.
Yeah, I think there's been some really great things as it relates to pedestrian safety done over in Temescal on Telegraph. And I think there's a lot that we can take away from that and learn from about how we can expand upon some of the recent improvements to make it even safer to walk around the neighborhood or cycle around the neighborhood.
Oh, okay. Eric Neville.
Well, coming from my view, being on the NCPC, I'm hard pressed to just pick one. And if it just has to be one, then it has to look at the whole system. You have to look at what's actually happening on the ground versus what people say. You have to look at funding. I mean, you have to get a coherent picture.
Okay. Let's see. Allie Bondi, you're the last.
+1 to everything that was just said. I would add building relationships with the city's recently launched macro mental health responders would also be something that of value to bring into the neighborhood for residents.
Okay, this last one, and we are running out of time, so you really do need one sentence on this, and you've kind of alluded to it. Home Depot has just proposed placing a store in the remaining vacant area of shops at the Ridge. Do you support, oppose, or remain undecided on the proposal? You can give a short kind of statement. And I'm going to reverse the order of what we just did. And Allie, Bondi, you get to start on that one. Short statement.
Short statement. I oppose because I think we can and deserve better, can do and deserve better. I think that there's many potential uses for that space, and we'll easily be able to find something that works for everyone.
Okay, Eric.
Sorry. Yeah, we can do better. I don't think it scales there appropriately.
Okay. Brett Moyer.
Yeah, I live on 51st Street, a couple blocks away, and a lot of people I think here have already said, would be a very strong proponent for more housing there long term.
Okay. Diana Mitchell Chavez.
I've seen the design for the Home Depot. No, absolutely not.
Okay.
Enough said.
Robin McDonald.
Hi, I hate to prejudge projects, but yeah, it just doesn't seem to be appropriate. We have much better uses. I just ditto what everybody else says.
Hey, Ben Friedman.
I oppose it. I think it should be housing. There's a Home Depot 3 miles away.
Not even 3.
Annette Fleischer.
I'm in opposition. We do have a challenge in that it is the owners of the property, not the developers that are leasing it, who are against the housing component unless they're granted an extortionate sum of money, apparently. I suggest we get in touch and pressure them with our state representatives. We have a senator and a representative, both very high advocates for housing. Let's see them get to work.
Okay. Casey Farmer, you get the last word.
Vehemently oppose. I think we need mixed use with housing and small retail.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you've managed to meet that. You now have, this is your time for the last part. It's your 1-minute closing statement. Up to you, whatever you would like to leave us with. And we are going to, we did it alphabetical to begin. Now we're going to reverse it. So it will be you, Eric Neville, who will begin this closing statement of 1 minute.
Well, I did mention before the issue of participation. I just thought I should underscore that a bit, because I remember when I was on the board previously, it seemed like there was a sort of presumption that the board was going to handle everything, but there's nothing about all of the work that needs to be done that necessarily scales to the free time of 12 people. And I also know that personally I found myself pulling on a yarn here or there and dealing with the city on a range of issues that don't necessarily fit into, say, RCPC's mandate. But all of these things matter. When people garden the medians or the sides of the freeways, when people do bake sales for PTA meetings, that's all part of the milieu that that brings us the quality of life we have. And I think that encouraging people to participate is, it's central to the concept of self-governance.
Okay. The next speaker would be Brett Moyer.
Yeah, thanks for everybody taking it. We led off with, and for having me today. I just close with kind of one of the things I love most about the neighborhood is how it continues to reinvent itself. My wife and I used to live right where the Ain't Normal Coffee now is. That wasn't there a couple of years ago. Now with the renovations that have been put in there, the investment in that business, that's a really revitalized little area. It's a little tiny area that we don't have a ton of them, but great to sit in those tables, have a coffee, enjoy the sun. I think the more of that we can do around the neighborhood, the more we can support our local businesses and bring each other out of our homes as we hopefully are able to do more of these things in person, the better.
Okay, the next speaker would be Diana Mitchell Chavez.
Yes, well, I think RCPC needs to listen to the residents here and continue to work towards keeping Rockridge as inviting and as special as it is, because it is a special neighborhood.
Okay, Robin McDonald.
Yes, for the last 2+ years, I've worked hard to make positive contributions to our community. I have been a key player in our major fundraiser, the kitchen tour, and currently serve as co-chair. I have served as RCPC vice chair for the last 2 years. I've chaired the grant program, and I helped to bundle and deliver the Rockridge News. With your vote, I am committed to continuing to work to support a thriving Rockridge.
Ben Friedman.
Thanks for listening tonight, y'all, and for giving me the opportunity to defend my case. I hope I've earned your vote. I think in conservation, there's a land ethic that permeates the work, sense that because you love a place, it's your responsibility to care for it. And that's how I feel about Rockridge. You know, I love it here, and therefore I want to help it thrive. And I think that RCPC, you know, can play that important stewardship role. There's much we can do together, especially regarding advocating for the things we've talked about, primarily housing and other things. There's also much to celebrate. It's a special place, and I want to join the RCPC not only to, like, as I said, help it thrive, but help highlight the joys of living here. And I think that through that, we can recruit our other neighbors to be more active citizens and help us all advocate to our decision makers about, you know, about the change we need to see from the folks that we elect. We're more powerful together in that way. So thank you, and see you around the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. Annette Fleischer.
Hi, and thank you for the opportunity. I would like to be returned to the board to continue working on the things that I've already begun, including writing for the Rockridge News and hopefully cataloging an archive for it for all of the years that it's been, as well as going forward working on the kitchen tour. I've worked on most of them. I'd like to work on this one as well, and I'm serving on the current committee. And I hope to see more people involved on committees. And I know that it is our job as board members to bring people into the fold, to help them join the committees, to know about the committees, to publicize what in fact RCPC is, what it does, and what it can be for the neighborhood. When the library was built by RCPC, it involved hundreds and hundreds of volunteers over 11 years, and it created a tremendous community here, and we can continue all of that together.
Okay, thank you. Casey Farmer, you're next.
Great. I would be honored to receive your vote to be reelected to the Rockridge Planning Council. And I will continue to advocate for affordable housing. I think we need to enhance our town halls. I think they're a great way for us to be in touch with our community, to hear from them. And so we need to have a robust agenda. I think we need to continue to think outside the box. I think specifically with our community grants program, such a great way for community to come together and make a positive influence on their own direct neighborhoods. And so we need to revamp that program, get more engagement from the community. And I would love to have regular attendance of elected leaders to either those town halls or other ways where we can be that kind of connector amongst residents and folks that represent them.
Okay. Last, but definitely not least, is Ali Bondi.
Thank you. I just want to appreciate everyone here for your civic engagement. Oakland is my professional and personal passion, and as engaged as the folks on this Zoom are. Most residents aren't, through no fault of their own. But bringing Oakland to Oaklanders is my favorite thing. For 5 years, I watched every single planning commission meeting, city council meeting, committee meeting, and wrote updates. It was a joyful experience. And I want to keep Rockridge residents informed about the issues and ensure their voices are heard. RCPC can both educate and be educated by our neighbors on these local issues to make our community accessible, welcoming place for people of all backgrounds to raise a family, to grow old, to visit, to shop, to thrive. I would be honored to have your vote. Thank you.
All right, I want to thank all of you, you as candidates, for stepping forward to run for RCPC board. Not only for your outstanding participation this evening, navigating the challenges of a Zoom gathering. I also want to thank the attendees who have proposed a thoughtful range of questions. Let me also recognize the election committee, Stu Flashman, Ronnie Spitzer, John Guzman, and Leonora C., who's helped provided the techno support and the timekeeping and coordinating questions. So let me conclude. It has been a real pleasure to be able to moderate you, but I'm going to turn it over now to Stu Flashman, Election Services Chair, who's going to give you the details regarding the election voting of candidates to fill the 6 seats on the board of directors for terms ending in April 2024. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Ronnie, if you could put up the slide that shows about the voting. We are in our third year now of having to do our voting in an unusual way. And we are hoping that it will work out as well as it has the last two times. But we are going to have 2 days of voting, one evening on this Thursday from 7 to 9 p.m. And that will be in the front of the Rockridge Library in the lobby atrium. We are probably going to have to move it inside a little bit because of it's looking like it's going to rain that day. But we're hoping we can, by leaving the doors open and having it close to the doors, will be essentially in open air and consequently won't have to worry as much about COVID. But that's on Friday, that's on Thursday from 7 to 9 p.m. And then on Saturday, where hopefully the weather will be better, we will, assuming we've gotten 25 votes on Thursday, we will then continue the voting from 1 to 4 p.m. in the back parking lot behind the library. Please remember to wear a mask. We'll be providing sanitizer, and we'll give instructions on how to mark your ballot and submit your vote. And there will be copies of the Rockridge News, which have all of the candidate statements. Make sure that you bring with you something that shows that you are a Rockridge resident. A driver's license with an address within the Rockridge boundaries, RCPC boundaries, will work, or a driver's license from that showing any other address but just shows who you are, and something else that shows that you live here in Rockridge. Please bring a pen if you can. If you don't, we will have pens available. And make sure that you have thought about and wrote down who you plan to vote for, because that will reduce the amount of waiting people have to do for people filling out ballots. Thank you, and we hope to see you at the polls. And I think this concludes our candidates night. Thank you all for viewing it.
Thank you.